Venus in astrology represents love, attraction, self-worth, beauty, relationships, money, pleasure, and the magnetic intelligence that reveals what we truly value. Hi, Cosmic Soul family. Welcome back to livzenastrology and to the Soul of Astrology series. This is a series where we explore astrology not as simply information, but as a living myth, a psychology, as consciousness, and as a language that helps us remember the many archetypes already living within us. And now, we arrive at the archetype of Venus. This is the part of us that asks, what do I love? What do I value? What feels beautiful to me? What am I attracted to? What am I willing to receive? And perhaps the most important is, what do I believe I'm worthy of? Because Venus is so much more than romance. She's more than partnership, and she's certainly more than the simplified idea of being attractive, charming, or aesthetically pleasing. Venus is the intelligence of value and beauty. She is the inner compass that tells us what matters. She reveals what we are drawn towards and what we desire to preserve, what we are willing to invest our time, money, energy, attention, and love into. She shows us how we relate to pleasure, how we relate to receiving, to beauty, and to our bodies, how we relate to other people, and how we relate to our own self-worth. This is the soul of Venus. Every planet in astrology represents the function of consciousness. The sun illuminates, the moon feels, Mercury interprets, and Venus evaluates. She tells us, I like this. I don't like that. This feels harmonious. This feels uncomfortable. This nourishes me. This depletes me. This reflects who I am becoming, and this no longer aligns with what I value. Venus is constantly helping us make choices, even when we are not conscious of it, like the clothes we wear, the music we listen to, the environments we create, the people we're drawn towards, the way we decorate our homes, the way we spend our money, the things we find beautiful, the relationships we tolerate, the experiences we pursue. All of these are the expressions of Venus. Venus reveals our preferences, but beneath the preference, there is value. And beneath the value, there is often a story about worth. This is where Venus becomes deeply psychological, because what we choose is often connected to what we believe we deserve. If we believe we are worthy of respect, we're more likely to choose relationships that contain respect. If we believe we are worthy of peace, we begin to become less available for chaos. If we believe we are worthy of abundance, we may be more willing to receive support and opportunity and compensation. But when our relationship with Venus is wounded, well, we may choose what is familiar rather than what is nourishing. We may confuse being wanted with being valued. We may confuse attention with love. Or we may abandon our own needs in order to preserve connection with others. We may stay in environments that do not honor us because a deeper part of us has not yet learned that we are allowed to choose differently. Venus helps us to understand that self-worth is not simply something we say, it's something we practice through our choices. Venus is often described as magnetic, and this is important because Mars moves towards what it wants, but Venus draws towards itself what resonates with its frequency. Mars pursues, Venus attracts. Mars initiates desire through action, while Venus creates the field through which the desire is received. And this does not mean Venus is passive. Receptivity is a form of intelligence. It's the ability to recognize what is aligned and what we allow in. Venus teaches us that not everything meaningful has to be forced. Not everything valuable must be chased. Sometimes the work is not to do more. The work is to become more available for love, and beauty, and support, for healthy relationships, more available for financial reciprocity, for pleasure without guilt, more available for a life that reflects our true values. Venus reminds us that we are always participating in an energetic exchange through what we give, through what we receive, and through what we allow. When many people first learn astrology, Venus is introduced as the planet of romance and relationships. And yes, Venus does describe how we love. It can describe what we find attractive. It can show us how we approach intimacy, affection, dating, partnership, and connection. But Venus is not limited to romantic love. Venus is also friendship. She's art, music, pleasure, self-respect. Venus is money. She's the ability to enjoy what we have created. Venus is the way we build harmony with another person, the way we recognize beauty in the ordinary. Venus is the quiet pleasure of sunlight moving across the floor, a well-prepared meal, a meaningful conversation, a piece of music that opens the heart, a garden, a painting, a soft fabric, a trusted friend, a moment of peace. Venus is our capacity to experience life as valuable. Without Venus, life could become mechanical, functional, productive, but empty. Venus asks us to slow down long enough to feel what makes life worth living. The element of Venus shows us the language through which love, value, attraction, pleasure, and connection is expressed. Let us begin with Venus in fire. So Venus in Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, the fire signs, tends to experience love through inspiration, passion, freedom, vitality, and creative expression. Fire Venus wants us to feel alive. There is often a desire for honesty, enthusiasm, playfulness, adventure, and directness. Venus in a fire may be attracted to confidence, to creativity, to warmth, to people and experiences that ignite something within them. The gift of Venus is wholeheartedness, the ability to love boldly, to express affection openly, and to bring joy, courage, excitement, and creative energy into relationship. The shadow may appear when excitement is mistaken for compatibility, when intensity is mistaken for intimacy, or when the need for freedom makes it difficult to remain present when the initial spark begins to transform. Fire Venus teaches us that love must remain alive, but it also must become conscious. And now we've got Venus in Earth. Venus in Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. These signs tend to experience love through consistency, reliability, embodiment, practical care, sensuality, and tangible support. Earth Venus often expresses love through action, through showing up, providing, through remembering what someone needs, through building something that can endure. Love may be experienced through touch, through food, through shared resources, through loyalty, through creating security, through the comfort of knowing that someone's words and actions match up. The gift of Earth Venus is devotion, the ability to make love real, to build beauty into daily life, and to understand that care is not only spoken, but it is practiced. The shadow, or the disagreeable aspect of Venus here, may appear through over-attachment to security, staying in a relationship simply because it is familiar, measuring worth through money, status, usefulness, or productivity, or believing that love must always be earned through service. Earth Venus teaches us that love needs roots, should nourish life, not imprison it. And then we have Venus in air. Venus in the air signs of Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius tends to experience love through communication, ideas, companionship, shared perspective, friendship, curiosity, and intellectual connection. Air Venus often needs conversation. There's a desire to exchange thoughts, to laugh, to learn, to feel mentally stimulated, to experience relationship as a meeting of minds. Love may begin through friendship here, through words, through mutual interests, through a shared vision. The gift of Air Venus is perspective, the ability to create space in a relationship, to communicate and to see another person as an individual, to bring fairness, objectivity, and social awareness into connection. The shadow or disagreeable aspect may appear through overthinking emotions, avoiding vulnerability by intellectualizing everything, keeping relationship safe distance, or being so focused on harmony that difficult truths may remain unspoken. Air Venus teaches us that love needs freedom and communication, but it also must descend from the mind into the heart. And then we have Venus in water. Venus in the water signs of Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces tends to experience love through emotional intimacy, sensitivity, empathy, vulnerability, energetic connection, and soul-level bonding. Water Venus wants to feel emotionally known. There may be deep sensitivity to tone, atmosphere, and unspoken feeling. Love can feel intuitive here, protective and healing, merging and sacred. The gift of Water Venus is emotional depth, the ability to love beyond words, to offer compassion, to create profound intimacy, and to recognize the invisible currents moving between people. The shadow or the disagreeable aspect may appear through overmerging, idealization, emotional dependency, rescuing, possessiveness, or losing oneself in the experience of loving another person. Water Venus teaches us that love can open the soul, but true intimacy does not require self-abandonment. Now we have Venus through Taurus and Libra, its ruling signs. Venus traditionally rules both Taurus and Libra, and through these two signs, we see two very different but deeply connected dimensions of the Venus archetype. Through Taurus, Venus teaches us about personal value, but through Libra, Venus teaches us about shared value. Taurus asks, what belongs to me? What sustains me? What brings me peace? What does my body need? What do I value enough to preserve? Taurus is embodied Venus, its sensuality, nature, resources, money, self-worth, stability, the physical experience of pleasure and security. Taurus teaches us that we must have relationship with our own value before we can create balanced exchange with another person. And then Libra then carries Venus into the relational field. Libra asks, how do we meet? How do we exchange? How do we create fairness? How do we consider another person without abandoning ourselves? How do we create harmony between two different perspectives? Libra is interpersonal Venus. It's partnership, reciprocity, compromise, beauty, balance, social grace, and the art of conscious relationship. Where Taurus says, I have value, Libra says, you have value too. And healthy Venus seeks a way for both truths to exist. This is why Venus is not only about getting what we want, Venus is also about learning the sacred art of exchange. Now we have Venus in the houses. The sign of Venus describes how Venus expresses herself. The house shows us where in her life the themes are most likely to unfold. Wherever Venus is in the birth chart, there is often a desire for harmony, connection, beauty, pleasure, and value. For example, Venus in the third house may find beauty through language, learning, writing, conversation, siblings, community, or the exchange of ideas. Venus in the seventh house often emphasizes partnership, cooperation, projection, attraction, and the process of discovering oneself through relationship. Venus in the 12th house may experience love through compassion, spirituality, imagination, sacrifice, hidden longing, ancestral patterns, and the unseen realms of the psyche. No placement is inherently good or bad. Every placement contains gifts. Every placement contains lessons. And every placement offers a pathway towards greater consciousness. At her highest expression, Venus knows her value. She does not need to prove it. She does not need to perform for it. She does not need to compete for love. She does not need to become more desirable in order to become more worthy. Higher Venus understands that worth is inherent. It's not granted by a partner. It's not granted by money. It's not granted by beauty standards. And it's not granted by popularity or being chosen. Higher Venus allows pleasure without shame. She receives without feeling indebted. She gives without self-erasure. She creates beauty because beauty nourishes the soul. She chooses relationships that contain mutual respect. And she understands that harmony is not the absence of disagreement. Harmony is the ability to remain connected to truth while creating space for another person's truth to exist. Higher Venus lives according to her values. Her choices reflect what she says matters. Her relationships reflect what she believes she deserves. Her exchange with life becomes reciprocal. She gives and she receives. She opens, discerns, she appreciates, and she allows herself to enjoy the life that she is creating. Now, the shadow of Venus often appears when our need for connection becomes greater than our commitment to ourselves. We may people please. We may say yes when our body is saying no. We may become overly concerned with being liked. We may alter ourselves in order to become more desirable, or remain quiet to preserve false harmony. We may seek worth through romantic attention, or we may use beauty and money and charm or sexuality as a way to secure validation. We may overgive and hope that someone will eventually choose us, or we may stay in relationships where reciprocity is absent. We become attached to appearances, or we may spend beyond our means in order to create an image of value. We may judge our bodies according to the standards that were never created with our wholeness in mind. We may believe that pleasure must be earned, or that receiving makes us selfish. But the shadow is not something to condemn. The shadow reveals where consciousness is asking to enter. It shows us where our values and our choices have become disconnected. It shows us where we have outsourced our worth, and where we have mistaken harmony for silence, love for attachment, beauty for perfection, receiving for dependency, and attraction for alignment. The purpose of awareness is not shame. The purpose of awareness is choice. Venus is deeply embodied. She teaches through sensation. The body often knows what resonates before the mind understands why. We feel expansion, softening, warmth, ease, attraction, comfort. Or we feel contraction, tension, aversion, unease. This does not mean every comfortable experience is aligned or every uncomfortable experience is wrong. Sometimes growth is uncomfortable. Sometimes familiarity feels safe when it is unhealthy. But Venus invites us to rebuild relationship with sensation, to notice what the body is communicating, to become more conscious of how relationships feel in the nervous system. Do we feel safe enough to be authentic? Can we relax in someone's presence? Or are we constantly performing, waiting for approval? Are we betraying our own needs to prevent someone else's disappointment? Can we receive affection without becoming suspicious? Can we receive support without immediately trying to repay it? Can we experience pleasure without anticipating punishment? Venus helps us understand that the ability to receive is often connected to safety. If the nervous system has learned that love is unpredictable, receiving love may feel uncomfortable. The nervous system has learned that rest must be earned. Pleasure may be a trigger guilt. If the nervous system has learned that connection requires self-abandonment, healthy boundaries may initially feel like rejection. This is why Venus work can be deeply healing. It's not only about changing what we think we deserve, it's about helping the body feel safe enough to accept something different. And Venus also speaks through money, not because money determines worth, but because money is one of the primary ways value is exchanged in the material world. Our relationship with money can reveal much about our relationship with receiving. Do we undercharge because we are afraid people will leave? Do we overgive because asking for compensation feels uncomfortable? Do we spend money to soothe emotional emptiness? Do we hoard resources because receiving has never felt reliable? Do we associate wealth with guilt? Do we associate struggle with goodness? Do we believe our gifts have value? Can we receive fair exchange without apologizing for it? Money is not the measure of the soul, but our financial patterns can reveal unconscious beliefs about worth, trust, safety, desire, and reciprocity. Venus asks us to create a more conscious relationship with exchange, not only financially, but energetically. Who receives our attention? Who receives our labor? Who receives our emotional energy, our time? What are we investing in? And does that investment reflect what we say we value? Relationship is one of the greatest mirrors of Venus, because through relationship we encounter our desires, our boundaries, attachments, expectations, our fears of rejection, our longing to be seen, and our capacity to receive love, and the places where we have learned to abandon ourselves in order to maintain connection. Venus reminds us that relationship is not only about finding the right person, it's also about becoming conscious of the self who is choosing. What part of us feels attracted? What pattern feels familiar? What are we hoping another person will give us? What do we believe partnership will prove? Are we seeking connection or validation? Are we choosing from wholeness or from fear? Healthy Venus does not ask us to become completely independent and need no one. That's not the goal. We are relational beings, and we need connection and affection and support. We need community. But healthy Venus asks us to enter relationship without disappearing inside of it, to love another person without abandoning the self, to compromise without betraying our values, and to remain open without becoming boundaryless, to receive without losing discernment, and to create harmony without silencing truth. Venus matters because values shape destiny. What we value determines what we choose, and what we choose determines what we practice. What we practice becomes a pattern, and our patterns gradually become the life we are living. We may say we value peace, but repeatedly choose chaos. We may say we value freedom, but remain committed to situations that require self-betrayal. We may say we value creativity, but give all of our energy to obligations that leave no room for expression. We may say we value ourselves, but continue accepting relationships that do not contain reciprocity. Venus asks us to become honest, not cruel or judgmental, but honest. Do my choices reflect my values? Does my environment reflect what nourishes me? Do my relationships honor the person I am becoming? Am I available to receive what I say I desire? And do I recognize beauty in my life right now? Or am I always postponing pleasure until some future version of me has finally earned it? Venus brings us back to the present, to the body, to the heart, to the sacredness of what is already here. And as we close this exploration of Venus, I invite you to reflect. What do you truly value right now? Not what you were taught to value, not what your family valued, not what society rewards, but what does your soul value? Do your current choices reflect those values? What do your relationships teach you about self-worth? Where have you confused being desired with being valued? Where have you confused peace with the avoidance of conflict? What are you no longer willing to exchange your life force energy for? And what beauty are you ready to create? What pleasure are you ready to allow? And what support are you ready to receive? What would change if you no longer needed someone else to confirm your worth? And what becomes possible when you begin to choose as though your energy, your time, your body, your creativity, and your love are sacred? Because they are. Venus reminds us that love is not something we find. Love is a value we embody. Beauty is not only something we observe, beauty is something we create through the way we live. Worth is not something we achieve, it's something we remember. And attraction is not only about what comes towards us, it's also about what we become available for when we align our choices with the truth of who we are. This is the Soul of Astrology, way of learning astrology not as information but as living myth. Let me know in the comments where your Venus is in your birth chart, the sign in the house, and what you're beginning to understand about the way you love, receive, relate, and recognize your own value. We got this, Soul Fam. So much love.